This is an Abby Morgan creation. She was behind The Iron Lady and The Split, not to mention Suffragette. So let's dive into exactly what it is about this new show, which is going to get people talking. So Abby Morgan has a real thing about fractured, dysfunctional family units, about, shall we say, very fragile characters who maybe conceal one or two things in their closet, as it were. What we have here is Cumberbatch in sort of tour de force performance mode as Vincent. He is a co-creator of a children's television show called Good Day Sunshine. His co-creator is played by Dan Fogler and called Lenny. And he is emotionally incapable of connecting with people due to, shall we say, a fractured relationship between himself and his father and mother. So for me, beyond the elements of political intrigue and the inherent corruption and emotional upheaval which ties this story together, and the capturing of New York in the 80s, it is the performance of McKinley Belcher III as Detective LeDroit, which really ties this show together. So I'm going to give Eric a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. This really is a character-driven, politically, should we say, motivated character piece. And it's got some epic performances in there. And Cumberbatch is incredibly generous and steps back as much as he is there as Vincent. It is Belcher III. So first and foremost, if you are not a musical fan of any kind, whether it's opera, whether it's reggae, whether it's pop, whether it's rock, whether it's any subgenre of dance or R&B or jazz or anything at all, then this is not the documentary for you. Camden may be the subject, but ultimately Camden itself is the blue touch paper for anybody who is passionate about music on any level. You've got Questlove, who was the founder of The Roots. People may know him from being in the house band of the Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show, but really that's just a side gig. The guy was immensely influential. You've also got Chuck D from Public Enemy in there. You've got the Sex Pistols are mentioned. You've Stiff Little Fingers. The Clash is a big influence. Dua Lipa features quite readily in the first episode, but she's executive producing, but ultimately it also goes into a great many other elements in terms of what Camden is, what it represented to many people. It really does just celebrate music and the creation of music and the love of the damn thing in the first place. So on that note, I'm going to dive into my rating. Let's do that next. So I'm going to be giving this a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. That's what I'm going to give Camden, which is currently streaming on Disney Plus, and this is the reason why. Because it sits alongside the other documentaries I've seen recently, which include the Michael J. Fox Still. So The Sound of Violet is, it sort of pivots around Jason Trevino playing Sean. He is a 20-something guy working as a coder in a computer app-based company. But the thing with Sean is he is autistic and he has issues with physical contact. He has problems reading social cues, and ultimately this guy is just not set up for romance on any level, which is where the twist in the tale really comes, I think. And when he first connects with Violet, Cora Clary, in this case, there was an instant miscommunication because she is a prostitute. She is there to earn money, to entertain clients, and he doesn't get it, and this is the thing. But the thing which makes this such an interesting film is the way that the autism is represented within it. So the other element in this film is the issue, or the debate and the discussion around human trafficking, and this is maybe where the message doesn't quite get across quite as well as it could do in The Sound of Violet, because yes, you do get Violet being obviously engaged in prostitution, and you do get the elements of her pimp Anton, should we say, basically, extorting her and selling her for money. But you don't get this sort of underlying theme of of the fact that women and children are sold into trafficking on such a mammoth scale, and this is an ongoing problem that somehow feels secondary, which is really, really strange. So for The Sound of Violet, I'm going to be going for a 3 out of 5 rather than the 4 on the big old 5 scale, because of the imbalance between the handling of the autism and the rom-com elements, alongside, I think, the more serious underpinning moral message of the human trafficking, which is sort of underlying within The Sound of Violet itself. So the first thing to know about Hitman is that this is an incredibly cool movie. It is easily comparable to Grosse Pointe Blank. That's the John Cusack movie I mentioned in the opening. You could also compare it to Grifters, which is Cusack, Melanie Griffiths and Angelica Houston. In there as well are shades of Ocean's 11, purely in tone. The first one only, with George Clooney, Brad Pitt and everybody else in Hollywood. But it concerns Gary Johnson. He is a full-time theology teacher, philosophy teacher, but he is also an undercover operative for the local police department, masquerading as Ron, who is a cool, casual and calculating hitman for hire. So what else is it about Hitman? It comes down to the chemistry between Glenn Powell and Adriana Arjona. She was in Good Omens and she was in Andor, and they play this sort of sassy love interest I don't know, there's a dynamic which is going on there. The connection they have on screen is very cool. They clearly have chemistry. Yes, there's some hot and heavy action in there, but really that's just it's irrelevant to the actual connection and the way the characters work on screen. This is what ultimately makes Hitman more fun than it should be, because it's quite a slim story. It's not something that you haven't heard before, haven't seen before in some way or another, but it flies by. And this really, it's the making of, there's a movie star in the making here, in Glenn Powell, and honestly, off the back of Hitman, I can't wait to see what he does next. So understandably, I'm going to be giving Hitman a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, because of the chemistry between the leads, because of the writing and the direction from Linklater, and ultimately there are so many little ensemble moments in the supporting players who surround. So in this sci-fi thriller, Jennifer Lopez is front and centre as Atlas Shepard. She is a computer analyst. She beats her AI interactive assistant at chess. She is cutting edge. She is frontline. And there is also the fact that her AI bot became self-aware, went off-world, and wanted to basically start a genocide against the human race. That AI bot is played by Simu Liu, and his name is Harlan Shepard. You've got a lot of Blade Runner in there. You've got a lot of aliens in there. You've got some artificial intelligence. That's the Steven Spielberg throwback with Osman in it and Jude Law. This is incredibly derivative, and that's only half the story. So against all expectations, critical opinion and pretty much everybody else, I really enjoyed Atlas. Yes, it is incredibly derivative. There are so many other sci-fi classics bunched in there within this storyline. But the fact is that Lopez, irrespective of the material that she's in, actually is a good actress. She can hold your attention. Simu Liu as Harlan is suitably ominous, overbearing and paper thin. But that's the point of this film. It might have cost hundreds of millions of dollars and people are going, oh, it's just computer generated, but actually it's pretty well done. It's polished. It's got Mark Strong in it, and he simply, it seems, can do no wrong. So on that note, I'm going to be giving Atlas a 4 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale, purely for its absolutely balls to the wall sort of like bravery and this commitment to this absolutely insanely stupid film and everything that they're throwing at it. Lopez is good, Strong is good. So the thing to remember about The Good Place is that nobody is who they appear to be. You start off with Ellen Shellstrop, played by Kristen Bell. She is essentially a dumpster fire of a human being, but she has been mistakenly dropped into heaven. She is greeted by Michael, who is a Good Place architect, and then she is introduced to Chidi Anugoni, played by William Jackson Harper, who is a moral philosophy professor and a tutor of ethics, as it were. So these two characters couldn't be further apart. You've also got Jamila Jamil playing Tihani Al Jamil, who is a millionairess who considers herself to be this high-brow, morally upstanding individual. And then you have you have Jason Mendoza, but at this point Manny Jacinto is revealed to be anything other than a Trappist monk who is tied into a vow of silence. But suffice to say, this is a show I have watched at least 5 times through. It keeps giving me stuff. I keep enjoying it. I keep finding it funny, and I keep walking away thinking about the ideas that it brings up, and brings up in such an intelligent way. So I'm going to give The Good Place 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. This is such a rarity for me, but having seen this so many times and knowing how much value and how much it gives back to me on so many levels, I can't think of any other score which makes sense. So on that note, I'm going to... So with the revelation of Billy Butcher's brain cancer and Mr. Edgar behind bars, not to mention the assassination of Black Noir by Homelander, Season 4 had a lot to live up to, especially after that superhero orgasm episode from Season 3 that no one is ever going to be able to forget about. So thankfully what we do get, at least in the first 4 episodes, are some seriously meaty plot points. So you do have a soup virus on the, shall we say, on the rise. You've also got a redneck superhero wannabe in the form of Firecracker. You've also got Starlight breaking away from Vought, and then you've also got the boys in complete disarray. So aside from the social satire and the entertainment homage, which is slowly but surely picking holes in Marvel Studios as a whole, there are the political elements which undercut much of Season 4 and make this much more interesting in terms of depth and breadth. You've also got the issue of Homelander, Anthony Starr, who is consistently stealing the show out from under everybody's noses. He is both a sociopath, a psychopath, hugely entertaining, vainglorious, is absolutely obsessed by personal image and getting older and leaving a legacy. Not to mention, you then got the Logan undercurrent, the Hugh Jackman noir classic, as it has been considered by many. So even if this doesn't have the shock value and people have become slightly numb to the violence, which is inherently a trademark of the boys, I'm going to be giving this still a 4 out of 5 for all the elements I have already mentioned, from the political to the sociological to the social commentary elements. This is, I still think, giving off some serious new wave vibes with its combination of French and English with the subtitles thrown in for good measure. Tableau is essentially resting on the shoulders of Sophia Smith. She plays Nicole. She is a burgeoning photographer. She has the potential for an internship and some study time out in Paris, but she also has the dual responsibility of a family unit who couldn't seem more idyllic. The mother and father are ultimately so in love, it seems, and yet the bombshell which is dropped in the opening minutes of this film is the fact that the mother, played by Amy Davis, has had an affair. This then has a domino effect on the way that Nicole approaches everything, whether it's relationships, connections, and also the way that she treats her mother and the extended family around it. So I think it comes down to a combination of things with this film from Stuart House. I think that Tableau is a very unique film. I think it packs an incredible amount of emotional material and sort of contemporary relationship discussion into a very small time frame. I think the framing itself and the cinematography is just absolutely beautiful on so many levels. I think that the score underpins the action such as it is. I think that the ensemble cast are incredibly naturalistic, and the performances that Howes has managed to get from them, given the circumstances of this being quite a low budget, is nothing short of miraculous. So it's not often that I give this particular score, but I'm going to give Tableau a 5 out of 5 on the big old 5 scale. Why? Because it doesn't offer any. There's no easy judgment calls. There's no agendas being enforced upon the audience. You're left very much to your own devices in terms of making up your own mind, and there's also an absolutely excellent slice of sort of ambiguity. There are no easy answers. This might not be the end of the road in terms of the story having a neat resolution, and that is what makes Tableau ultimately better, because it's honest and it's real and it's grounded, and that's been achieved and that's been conveyed on film. So that's my reasoning. There's your 5. I'm going to jump into the trailer. Let's do that next. And so it is, you've reached the end of the video review for Tableau, which I believe is streaming on Prime Video, Google Play and Tubi as we speak, and there is a link to the website at the bottom of my written review, which is on my website. If you've liked the video, then give me a thumbs up. Failing that, you can always just drop a comment in the comment boxes below and I will respond. And finally, just subscribe so that every Tuesday and every Saturday when I drop another one of these videos, you'll get a little notification and you can pop in and watch or listen to as much or as little as you would like, and then go about your day. In the meantime, check out the rest of the channel and maybe pop over to the Patreon page. Take care.